be heard a cry out in the universe.
Yeah. You used to call me on my cell phone. Late night when you need my love.
We're going to start this off with a review because I didn't want to cover this on the channel for one reason or another. Every time I tried to record, the fan on my laptop would just go crazy. Hopefully it doesn't during this podcast. But let's talk about A Wrinkle in Time.
Yes.
Me, you, and my brother Jeff were able to go to this, and you've read the book, so I really wanted to do this as a combined review more because of that. I really have nothing attached to the movie other than what I saw, but for you, if you want to kind of, let me bring in the IMDb for Wrinkle in Time here so we can get the synopsis so we can say it officially. So, after the disappearance of her scientist father, 3 peculiar beings send Meg, her brother, and her friend to space in order to find him. That is a riveting. That is maybe the most basic summary I've ever heard.
I was going to say, that is very much an oversimplification.
Saying a young girl and there's males and females in this story, and they do things.
And they travel.
Many people say this is a film. Others would call it a movie.
It is those things.
It almost is like Pert Hapley was describing the movie. So let's see if we can do this better. So essentially we have Meg, who has a father that's been working on trying to bend space and time, and he finds a way, but he then basically disappears for about 4 years. Everybody thinks he's gone.
Everybody thinks he just up and left.
They have another kid. These 2 kids are adopted, by the way, which we'll go into because I want to know if that's actually from the book or not. And
it's not.
It's not. They weren't adopted?
Well, because I don't think in the movie, I think Meg is supposed to be their child. But the younger one is adopted. I hope this isn't a spoiler.
Okay.
I don't think it's a huge plot point.
Here's the thing. If you guys watch the reviews for these things and you're looking at it, I'm highly doubting that you're going to this movie this weekend. So with that being said, for those of you that don't want it to be spoiled, I would maybe skip ahead to about the 15-16 minute mark, and we'll promise to wrap it up around that time.
Yes.
And we can get into your stories, but we're going to spoil some shit during this part.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and say that now.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways, but yeah, that is not the case.
So then we have Reese Witherspoon, Oprah, and Kelly Kapoor coming in to basically tell this girl, hey, your dad is alive. He's in this dark place. We don't really know how to get there. You want to come with and help? We're going to go and try to do something about it. Which is really all they do. Like, they're there for a second, and then they peace out. The rest of the story is about Meg and her journey to try to kind of build a little more self-confidence because she's not really popular or in any sense of the word at her school. She's got her bullies, and just, I don't know. It does have a really heartwarming message, but it's tough to get because they really mainly focus on the visuals and on just... I don't know. The visuals is pretty much all.
And really,
it does have a heartwarming message, but it's very muddled and very confused.
Yeah, this movie falls into a trap that I really don't like when movies... I really don't like when movies do this, where they focus so much on... A lot of the times it happens where they focus so much on, like, action or the fight scenes, and then the story gets muddled. In this case, they focus so much on the visuals, and the visuals are stunning.
Yeah.
Like, they look amazing. But you can't rely on visuals to carry your movie.
Yeah.
You have to have a good story in there, too.
And what she means by that is she's not... I mean, I'm not actually saying that all of these characters, like, don't go anywhere with their story arcs. They definitely do.
Yes.
It just takes a side story. It's not more of a side story, more as if... I kept thinking as it was going from one scene to another that they felt just kind of out of place. Like it was just a bunch of scenes that didn't have a cohesive through line.
Yes.
And I think that's because they're missing a lot of parts.
Yes.
If I looked at the trailer, there's actually pieces of the trailer that aren't in the movie that seem to maybe be parts that would have helped piece together some more stuff and give more time with where they were at. It seemed like they were going from one planet right into the next planet and really not spending any time in between.
Yeah, it's very rushed, and I don't understand why they felt the need to cut so much out or to cut so much out of the story, because this movie was probably only about an hour and a half. And then, you know, I think they could have easily extended it by 30 minutes, made it like a 2-hour movie, which is kind of like the average length of a movie, I feel like.
You usually go in expecting that now with movies. If it's shorter, it's always kind of like a, wow, that happened really fast.
And like, yes, it is a movie for kids, so I think they were trying to be, you know, conscious of that. But I don't know. I feel like there was just so many gaps. And like, having read the book, I know exactly what they were leaving out.
Spoil it.
And they left out some pretty important...
Let's spoil some stuff.
Important things. I mean, like, for example, there's a lot that's left out in as far as character development goes, with Meg, but more specifically with the younger brother, Charles Wallace, because a big part of the movie, kind of his downfall, is his confidence in himself.
Because he's a super genius, and this dark thing is constantly tempting him with that, to be like, hey, in the movie, you can figure this stuff out and you can do this stuff. And in the movie, what happens is he is kind of tricked into following this, like, assistant to get to this dark character, which they call the It. He's kind of tricked into... Which very much... The whole thing felt very Stephen King-like to me.
Into following him. But in the book, he's tricked, but not in the same way. It's more so him... I don't even know if I would necessarily say he's tricked.
It's like a slow burn.
Well, but like, so they're all being tempted by the It, by this creature, all three of them. And he says, like, I bet I can go in and, like, resist. Like, I bet I can go in and be okay. So he willingly goes in because he thinks that he can handle it, and he can't. Whereas in the movie, he's just kind of duped. And so, I don't know, to me, that kind of undercuts his character, and it's kind of like, oh, wait, I thought you were supposed to be a genius. Like, why couldn't you hold up against this? But in the book, that's a lot more fleshed out. So that's one thing. They cut out an entire planet.
Yeah. Oh, so that's not a big deal to me. Like, because the planets were too much for me. They just kept going to one, to the other, to the other.
Yes.
Not really spending enough time on it. And in one part in particular that I don't like, the ending really... I've heard a lot about the ending being similar to where it being a message about love, where what Meg's doing is just saying how much she loves Charles Wallace, and that brings him out of it.
Yeah.
What I don't get, and what drives me nuts, is when Chris Pine is in that Drake music video room, and he sees Meg, and he goes down, and he sees Charles Wallace, and he sees that he's bad. He basically is just like, deuces. Don't worry about him. Let's go. And they never address the fact that that's a freaking horrible decision. And it's the whole reason that Meg goes to try to fix Charles. Like, they have this moment that changes the course for the characters. But then they never resolve the initial part of it. Yeah. So you're just like, is Chris Pine a dick? Should I just not like him because of this? Yeah. And at the end, when they don't address it, it's kind of like, I do think Chris Pine's a dick. A little bit. And how long were they there? Because they're both dressed a little differently now.
And that's why, so like, I see what you're saying where you're with
him and the token white boy, which, by the way, that dude was, first of all, the most basic character on the planet. He did absolutely nothing in the movie. No. Second, I think they were trying to say that he was a gay character in a couple ways, but they didn't have the guts to go forward with it.
Interesting.
He just felt like he had nothing to offer to the actual story. Whenever they'd go to him, like, well, I had this with my parent.
That's kind of the case in the book too, honestly.
Get him out of here.
But anyways, going back to what I was saying before, I get what you were saying with another planet and more characters kind of being too much and being more of a distraction, but a lot happens on that planet, and a lot happens with the characters that they bring in, and So when they take that out, like, there's a huge chunk of development that that doesn't happen because they just eliminated this whole scene. And so it's frustrating knowing what the story is, because here's the thing. The book's not, like, spectacular. Like, it's not a wonderful book by any means. Like, the dialogue is really weird in the book, and they kind of carried that weirdness over into the movie rather than trying to upgrade it, I feel like. But the story is really interesting and really fun, I think.
If I were to think
carry that over into the movie.
If we did it in like a redo of Wrinkle in Time as a novel, and we made it be by Ava DuVernay, I think what you would mostly get out of the book if it were remade is a lot of description of what you're seeing, and that really be it. And the rest you could probably put into a children's book. And maybe that's mean to say, but
and it is.
It's really simplified a lot of the themes they don't explore that are interesting, because they just move on to the next set piece.
Yeah.
And that was the main problem of the movie. It just felt too familiar, it felt too simple, and there was nothing to really attach to other than, wow, what I'm looking at is very pretty.
And a big thing too, so it reminded me a little bit, okay, so let me get this thought out here. So Interstellar, you don't really know how things work in the movie Interstellar.
Oh, but you didn't see them take the paper and bend it?
When they're traveling back and forth, let me finish.
I was making a joke.
When they're traveling back and forth and doing all these things in Interstellar, like, you don't really understand what's happening, but they still kind of try. In this movie, it was legitimately, like, the explanation was it's a physics thing for, every phenomenon that occurred. It's like, you gotta try a little harder.
I get the parallel. Wrinkle in Time is definitely worse than Interstellar.
Of course.
But I get the comparison.
Just in terms of, like, the science and it being over your head. Like, it's not just that, like, we're dumb. It's that they didn't explain it, you know?
I don't like the way the witches were dressed. And they were very distracting to me. Especially, I believe
20-foot tall Oprah.
Here's the thing, though. I believe in 20-foot tall Oprah. When I saw her, I went, that is a big Oprah. That is, I can see a very large Oprah. Not the size of Ray right now, but just about where that is. Reese Witherspoon and Mindy Kaling, like, they felt uncomfortable in their wardrobes. When they were running around, they all felt like they were stuffed in something.
Yeah.
Even when Reese Witherspoon turned into the leaf, and the leaf that can... First of all, leaves fall, people. Leaves do not fly. Turning her into a leaf and then making it so she can fly was very confusing for me.
Yeah.
However, I've got a dog that has to go to the bathroom, so you're going to take over.
Derping.
And 3, 2... And a hard cut back into it because we decided just to put it on pause and have you go and do that. Anyway, I've got 1 to 2 minutes left. Okay,
Yes.
Your final thoughts and your rating.
My final thoughts, it's a fun movie and it's a very pretty movie. If you want a good story, this isn't the one to do it for you. Rating, I'm going to stick with what I gave it originally after we saw it, so I'm going to say a 6 out of 10.
Cool. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. Okay. I think I've landed on that. It's like looking in a kaleidoscope. It's very pretty, but there's nothing to it.
But you don't get anything out of it.
I don't think that this is something I'm going to remember in the next week. Yeah. There's nothing in it that, to me, goes, wow, that was such a great moment. I can't believe it. And I really quick need to talk about the villain at the end, the It, and how they showed the girl getting beat up or something. The vines look like the vines from Suicide Squad of that dude that stretches out, that just picked her up and then would just kind of shake her and then set her back down and then shake her again.
I feel like he went kind of soft on her.
It looked like the vine was just kind of juggling her between both of his hand vines and then sitting it back down.
You need to be
whip her in the face, you know? Like, do something. I just feel like awful. I wonder if there was a cut of that and they're like, oh shit, that's very violent. And then they took that out. Or maybe one of the kids cried too hard or something. But this is a kid's movie for a kid. I think it'll work. I do want to say one more
thing though. The child actors in this movie are very good. The girl who plays Meg and the boy who plays Charles Wallace.
He's a girl.
They are very talented
actors. Except for Basic White Boy.
And that's why I just said Meg and Charles Wallace. Mm-hmm. They are very talented actors, and I do want them to get more work because I think they have a lot of potential.
Yep. And we got 20 more seconds. 20-foot Oprah. Reese is funny. Mindy's weird. I think this
There's a
could be
Hamilton
better.
quote.
There's a Hamilton quote that doesn't work at all.
Oh, I
All of their
liked
modern
it.
references
I
were
loved
weird.
it.
And scene. That is the end. So if you're coming back
No
in
more
after the review,
Wrinkle in Time
let's
talk.
spoil it again. Going back. I'm just kidding.